Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Law 101, your guide to understanding the legal world, one case, one concept, and one conversation at a time. And, and today I have a special guest. He's a personal injury lawyer, no other than Mr. Lam Garcia.
Hi, Daniel. Thanks for having me on.
Welcome to Law 101, Mr. Lam. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Sure. So, my name is Lem Garcia. I'm a personal injury lawyer in West Covina, California, which is in Los Angeles County, California. I've had my own office here, Lem Garcia Law, for 10 years, and we help people after they've been injured in an accident, make sure that they get medical attention that they need to get better, and we help them also get compensated for their injuries.
Interesting. So, what is the difference between personal injury law and criminal law?
Well, personal injury law is a civil case where you're seeking compensation from the other side for your injuries. So the other side, the defendant, they wouldn't have any they wouldn't um, there's no threat of them going to jail or to prison for what they did wrong. It's just a negligence case, and we're seeking money damages versus a criminal case. You're prosecuting for someone's criminal actions, and they could, potentially get jail time for what they did.
So, what are the key elements needed to establish liability and personal injury case?
So liability is just really, I guess, a fancy term for responsibility. Who's at fault for what happened? So there's a couple ways to establish what happened, who's at fault for what happened. There's statutes that you could follow and say, okay, well, this person broke the law. They're not in compliance with this vehicle code, so therefore they're negligent. That's called negligence per se. And then the other way that they're negligent is just a reasonable duty standard. They have a duty to follow. They didn't follow it. They breached that duty, and then if there's damages, then they're liable for the damages that they caused if their breach of the duty caused the injury.
So, Mr. Lam, how does negligence factor into personal injury claims?
So negligence is really the key to any personal injury claim. Every personal injury claim, I would say that it's ultimately comes down to negligence, which is the party has a duty that they didn't follow, that they breached, and then as a direct cause of their breach, the other side or the plaintiff suffered an injury. Every personal injury case comes down to negligence, whether it's a motor vehicle accident, a slip and fall. Um, they all come down to who's negligent and what injuries did they suffer.
How does, or what is, I should say, what is the legal duty of care and how does it apply in an accident cases?
Well, the duty of care for any driver is just to number one, follow the law. So there's laws that are in place, the motor vehicle code. You have to follow that. And then also there's just regular negligence, which is driving like, what a reasonable person would do. So, which is following the law. And then also just, if someone has the right of way, that you don't impede their way, and you don't crash into them. Um, it's pretty straightforward. I think, everybody that drives and has been doing it for a good amount of time understands who's at fault and who's not at fault. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward for motor vehicle cases.
So, Mr. Lam, what are the different types of personal injury cases?
Well, anytime somebody injures you, and if they can injure you and they're negligent, that can be a personal injury case. Most cases are motor vehicle accidents, whether it's vehicle versus vehicle, or vehicle hits a pedestrian, vehicle hits a bicyclist. There's also slip and falls, there's dog bites, Medical malpractice goes under personal injury. Um, just any way that somebody gets hurt, there's potentially a personal injury claim there if a third party is responsible for what happened. But if you get injured because of your own wrongdoing, your own negligence, then you really wouldn't have a case to pursue against a third party. But yeah, we're looking to hold a third party responsible for what happened.
So, Mr. Lam, in the United States, which number one, or what number one cases that you're handling in terms of personal injury?
Most of our cases are motor vehicle accidents. I would probably say, I was just talking to somebody about it today. Probably maybe more than 95% of our cases are motor vehicle accidents. We're in Southern California, a lot of traffic, a lot of drivers on the road, and unfortunately, people are driving negligently. I think the number one way that accidents happen really is people are texting and driving, because one of the most frequent accident that we see is the rear end accident. And people are mostly distracted by their cell phone. You look to the car to your left and your right, at least over here, you're most likely going to see somebody on their phone.
Certainly. So, what are the first steps an injured party should take after an accident?
Well, immediately after the accident, you want to make sure that you're okay. So if you're at the scene, you want to make sure that you pull over, attend to any injuries that you have. If you feel like you're seriously hurt, of course, call 911, get to an ambulance. But if you're reasonably okay, you want to make sure that you do call the police, have them come out, file a police report, and then while the police is, while they're on their way, talk to the other side, get their information, driver's license, insurance, take photos of the scene, get photos of your car, the other party's car, make sure that you document everything. If there's witnesses, get the witness information. And if you're not feeling well, or if you just want to make sure that you're okay, get medical attention. So that's really important in the beginning, to make sure that you're okay, seek medical attention. In addition to making sure that you're okay, you're also more, I guess, also that's very important, that you're documenting your injuries from the beginning. That you can show, because the insurance company's going to question everything. You want to make sure that you can connect the accident to the injury that you suffered. So the sooner that you get medical treatment, the better it is, not just for your health, but also for your case.
So, how does the statute of limitations affect personal injury claims?
So in California, I'm not certain about other states, but in California, you have 2 years from the date of the accident to file suit on your case.
Okay, so what role do police reports and medical records play in an injury lawsuit?
So the police report is really important, because it helps establish what happened, the parties involved, the insurance carriers that the parties have, and also the facts of what happened. So if you're not at fault for what happened, you want to make sure that you get a police report, because the police will interview the other side and get their statement after the accident, before they have a chance to think about, oh, how can I escape liability? How can I change my facts so that I'm not responsible? Because it happens very often where people would admit fault at the scene or apologize even. No police report is made, and then later on they go home. Our clients will go home and say, "Oh, well, they admitted fault, everything's fine," but then later on they find out the other party changed their story after talking to a friend or family member of theirs. They changed their story, and if you got a police report in the beginning, they would have their statement. They would be apologetic at the scene. They would tell the officer the truth about what happened, and then you wouldn't have to worry about liability. So that's one of the main reasons why you get the police report. And then, really, yeah, you want to make sure that you can prove what happened. You're not at fault. You want to make sure that you have the facts. The police officer will come out, take measurements, take photos, and just really document everything, so you can have your evidence to prove that the other party is at fault for what happened. And then, as far as medical records, to answer your second part of your question, very much the same thing as far as having evidence to prove your case. If you're injured, you need to have medical records to prove your injury. If you're in pain and you don't get treatment, you never see a doctor, you just deal with it on your own. You have very little evidence besides your own testimony to prove that you're injured. So you can be crying all day long about your injury and what you've been through, but if you don't have any medical records, the insurance company, or later on, even if you go to a jury, they're going to say, well, why didn't you see a doctor for your injuries? You have to document your injuries, and see a doctor for it. Make sure that all of your injuries are documented. You're complaining about your pain, you're addressing it so that you can prove how much you've been hurt.
Certainly. So, Mr. Lam, how does an attorney like you help in a personal injury cases?
Well, we know exactly what the insurance company is looking for because they'll be the first one to evaluate your case. The other parties, they're not paying out of pocket. Their insurance company will be paying you for your injuries, and the other side, the um, the other side's insurance company or even your own, they want to minimize your claim. They want to say, well, your case isn't worth as much as you think, and pay you much less than what your case is worth. So we know how to guide you from the beginning until the end to make sure that the value of your case is properly documented and that we can prove it, so that in the end the insurance company does place the proper value on your case and you can get paid what you deserve.
What is the process of filing personal injury lawsuit?
So a lawsuit isn't always necessary. I would say probably even more than 9 out of 10 cases settle before a lawsuit is filed. Most car accident cases, a settlement is reached, especially when you document everything properly. You get the proper medical treatment, you get the police report, you get all the evidence that you need to prove your case, and you send that to the insurance company. You negotiate with them, and most of the time, the case will settle. I think filing suit is often necessary, but not as much as people think. I think a lot of our clients call like, "Oh, what will happen when we file a suit? I go to court, I go to trial." Most cases resolve well short of any of that happening.
So let's go to liability and compensation. How is it or how is fault determined in an accident case?
Well, fault is determined primarily by the vehicle code. You look to see it, every you look to see to the vehicle code. Did the other party break any of the laws? And then if they did, that would be the reason why they're at fault. So if you're in an accident, pretty straightforward. You shouldn't have followed too closely. Uh, you look ahead for objects ahead of you to make sure that you don't crash into them. Very straightforward. Um, Another very common accident is at the intersection. A car turns left in front of you. You're going straight. The car, if you both have green lights, the car going straight has right of way. The other party is supposed to yield to the person going straight. At least that's how it is in California. I think other places it's a little bit different. Um, but yeah, in California, you're supposed to yield to the car going straight. They have the right of way. So liability is pretty straightforward. Just it's who's following the laws, who's driving accordingly to the vehicle code.
So what are the comparative negligence and contributor negligence and how they impact compensation?
So comparative negligence, I think, is very important here in California. Your recovery will be reduced by the percent of fault that you have. So if you're partially at fault, let's say you're 10% at fault for the accident, your recovery, the value of your case, is reduced by 10%. Which also kind of can go the other way. If you're at fault 90%, which means you're mostly at fault for what happened, but the other party's at fault 10%, right? But you're seriously hurt from what happened, you can still get compensated very well, because if you have a serious injury, your case is worth seven figures or maybe even more, and they would still be responsible to pay 10% of your injury. So most people's insurance coverage isn't even that much. Like, let's say your case is worth $1 million, and their insurance policy is, let's say, $50,000. The defense carrier will pay the 50,000, the policy limits, because your case is theoretically worth $1 million, and their insured is 10% at fault. They would still pay you the maximum under the insurance policy.
What types of damage can an injured party recover in a personal injury case?
So in a personal injury case, there's general damages and special damages. So special damages is your medical bills, past, present, and future, and then your general damages is your pain and suffering, emotional distress. And I think the value of the case is mostly, at least in the more serious cases, is in the pain and suffering. Like, how has your life been affected by what happened? I think a lot of times people focus on the medical bills, especially non-lawyers say, well, my medical bills, and then they're not really aware of how much their case is worth on the pain and suffering side. And I think, especially if you're an active person or you have hobbies that have been impacted by your injuries, the pain and suffering that you're going through, I mean, it's very, very significant, because now the thing that brings you joy in life is potentially taken away. You no longer can, if you live an active lifestyle, you play sports, you can no longer play sports like you used to. Or if you have a hand injury and you're a musician, you can no longer play the instrument that you trained for so many years. So we look for those things in cases, is how has your life been affected by the injuries that the other party caused.
So, Mr. Lam, what will be your short term and long term goals as a personal injury attorney?
Well, I think the goal from the beginning, when I opened 10 years ago, is really just to be of service to the area, um, local community. I grew up in West Covina. I lived here my whole life, and I just wanted to be an outlet for people to get the help that they're looking for, get the guidance that they're looking for, and really provide the service that people do deserve after an accident. I think people have this impression that you call a law firm or speak to a lawyer, that you're not going to speak to somebody that, maybe they're not the friendliest person, or they're very not approachable, or they're very short, or they don't have time for you. And the goal for the office is to kind of debunk those things and provide the service, the help, the approachability, the friendliness that people would like. I think that they would like to have after they've been in an accident. Is they come in a time when their life is turned upside down potentially, and the last thing they need is someone to give them an attitude. They're looking for someone to be compassionate, listen to them, and really guide them in this really difficult time in their life. So yeah, we look forward to providing that, and just continue to do that in the community, and spread that beyond. And hopefully, with that, we can also start. We've been doing some charity work here and abroad, and we would like to continue to doing some more of that.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. Lam. And what will be your advice for those people out there suffering for personal injury?
My advice to the people suffering from an injury would be to be patient with the process. It can be very frustrating that you were just driving and stopped in traffic, someone crashes into you, now you're injured, your car is ruined. I think with time, things will get better. You'll get back on your feet. Your car will get, either you'll pay it out for it or get it repaired. As far as your injury goes, the road to recovery is there. Hopefully, you talk to your doctors. You just be patient with the process, and just be patient with the entire process and find somebody good to help you out. Get a good attorney.
Definitely. So, what are the benefits and risks of accepting settlement versus going to trial?
So settlement versus trial is a big decision that you have to make at some point. If you feel like the insurance carrier really isn't paying you what you feel like your case is worth, then you kind of have to assess the risk and the benefit, because litigation can be not just time consuming but very costly. And then in the end, maybe you get the same amount or maybe a little bit more, but then you still have to cover the costs of the case. And then the attorney's fees might go up, so you have to think about that. But it could be very well worth it. Go litigating the case and going to trial. A lot of times, the insurance company will never pay you what your case is worth, without their feet being put to the fire. Sometimes you really have to push them and show that what, you're not going to take a discount, and you're willing to see what the jury has to say about what happened and what your injuries are. But yeah, a good attorney, a good team of attorneys helping you out can help you assess that. And that's why it's really important to make sure that you get the right help.
Certainly. So, Mr. Lam, how does an injury care case proceed if it at fault party is uninsured?
Well, if the other side, the at fault party, is not insured, you better have some uninsured motorist coverage. So in California, we have something called uninsured motorist coverage, which is under your own policy, which is triggered when the other party is either underinsured or uninsured. They don't have any insurance at all. So if that's the situation, you have that kind of policy, then your insurance company steps in, and then they will pay you for your injuries. They step into the shoes of the defendant per se, and then they pay you for your all your damages. So get a good
Certainly.
policy. Go check that. Make sure you have a good policy so that if that happens, your insurance company will take care of you. But you should still
Certainly.
have an attorney in that case too.
Yes, indeed. So before we wrap up our discussion, Mr. Lam, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, Food 101, in its fifth season with my co-host, Chef Alessandro, one of a specialty chef in one of a five-star hotel in downtown Toronto. Please do listen to our latest episode. We talk about, or we read our letter senders all over the world. So what legal options are available if any injury claim is denied by the insurance company?
If the insurance company denies your claim outright, then you have to file a lawsuit and tell them that you're taking this case all the way, and hopefully you can resolve it in mediation. But if not, then you continue going forward towards trial.
Mr. Lam, would you like to plug in something before we go?
If you need help in California after an accident, check out our website, lemgarcialaw.com. Give us a call at 626-337-1111.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Lam Garcia because if you support him, more encouraging guidance to come. So, Mr. Lam, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.